Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Bigfoot's Barbershop in Devon, Oman. Yes, again, you have decided to awaken me from my slumber for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yet, I really do need to attend to something. Absolutely delicious. And now that Mr. Barber and Mr. Oman have released me from my shackles, it is once again time to take a walk into the darkness known as the Dogman.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, again, you have tuned in for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yes, Brian Barber, aka Mr. Barber, and our friend Devon Oman from Canada have decided to sit down and get the late night fire burning with some timber for us so that we can roll into the early hour mornings and figure out what is occurring. So again, it is time to read a few chapters from the Midnight Society book. Devon, how are you doing tonight? And after you're done, throw it over to Mr. Barber, eh?
I'm doing quite well, man. How are you?
So far, so good. And we had a nice balmy 34 degrees here with sun, so that was a pleasant change.
Been busy, just trying to grind away. Glad that we got a chance to finally link up, and we've been doing multiple round little tables with guests and hosts lately. Last night we definitely had a great show as well. And Devon, how cold is it up your way, man?
A few days ago it was like blizzard and snowy and very cold, but now it's like -9 Celsius, and it goes from -9 Celsius to -50 in the next week. It's up and down so many times here.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. I'm up here in Maine, and I actually have a couple friends from Canada, and one of my friends is from Saskatchewan, and he said it was pretty gnarly the other day as well. I don't really understand why the heck we're the only ones apparently that use miles per hour, and I believe Fahrenheit, do you use Fahrenheit? We use Celsius. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense because I try to explain something, and then we have to figure out the common term, which shouldn't we just all use the same one?
It's America being stubborn.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, what the heck? We got so many confusing aspects, but yeah, it's been pretty cold for sure. And to the audience, yes, we got a really gnarly one tonight for you. We do have some encounters from Devon's area up in Canada that we will touch base on the end. But yes, this means you need to listen to the episode until then. And what we're going to do is, well, Devon's going to tell us what he dives into, what he's been up to, and what he does. And then, Mr. Barber and myself and Devon are going to talk about some of our favorite werewolf movies. It should be a pretty good one. Brian, what have you been up to lately? And then afterwards, toss it over to Devon.
Well, we did that show last night, which was a lot of fun. And today was another workout and a whole bunch of dieting for the bodybuilding show coming up. Started messing around with YouTube a little bit, trying to get ready to get back into putting out regular content instead of just lives. So, been a busy day. How about you, Devon?
Well, I make low budget cheesy horror films from Swift Saskatchewan. The last few days I've been kind of editing the latest film called The Silver Scream, which is like 4 stories into one. It's like Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt. The main story is these females go to the movie theater to check out the new horror film, finding out they're actually part of a horror film themselves. And when they're watching the movies, it goes into these short films. Yeah, we have a few twists in it. So my last few days have been just editing that film up. I'm going to be filming the Gnomes film in springtime. So besides work and editing and gym, that's basically my life lately.
Bam, that's some great stuff right there. And I used to do, like I said, some acting and modeling. I don't miss it, and I can definitely explain to you sometime why, but it's definitely helped with my creativity aspects for sure. And long story short, Starfox is my nickname, but it's also my personification that I based off of Alucard from Hellsing. That is just such a dope vampire that, well, I was a big fan of growing up. Again, I kind of bring my acting aspects just to play my personification, and that's enough fun for me right there because I felt like it took a ton of fun out of movies and shows when I realized how long it took to create a scene and also how dimmed down it really was. Meaning, I was an extra in an Anna Faris movie down in Boston called What's Your Number? My girlfriend at the time and some other people we knew were extras, and we did a toast to Anna Faris as she just got up in the bar, kind of danced around, toasted us back. Man, we shot that scene for like 15 hours straight, and that's legit all we did in that scene, So I feel you, man.
It's a long process. A lot of people don't realize how long like a scene like that takes. Even like I've been on a few movie sets myself in Regina, Saskatoon, Medicine Hat, Calgary, and they're a lot more bigger budgets than my movies. And yeah, they have like 2 or 3 scenes for that day, but it's like a full 10-hour day basically. So you're on set for quite a bit of time. And I don't think people realize how much time you have to like sit and then come back on set and then go back and sit down and then come back on set and they change the camera angles up and repeat the scene over and over until the actors get it right. It's a big process.
Yes, it really is. And Barber, you can relate to this, man, because it's no different than, people that think all of a sudden you can just be in shape, right? And then you just walk into an activity or a gym and you're just fit. But they don't realize all the extra hours and all the sacrifices that go into it. Same thing with like the acting aspects,
Yeah, people think you can just walk in, take some supplements, even the special supplements, and forget all about the hundreds of hours of training, 24-hour-a-day dieting, all that stuff nobody considers.
100%. And I mean, just with the editing of the episodes we do here on Midnight Lycanthropy, I mean, I usually run like 45-minute episodes. It takes me a while afterwards to make sure I cut the sound correct, line up my images, make some more images if I don't already have them on file. And yeah, it's something that just takes time to put out a good product. And I just don't think people understand that a lot. But then they'll be the first ones to be like, oh my goodness, season 3 of The Witcher was terrible. Well, you sat there and begged so hard and you just wanted them to put it out so quick. Well, they put it out real quick, didn't they?
Oh yeah, like all that stuff, like podcasts, filming, music. It takes time, and I think people don't realize until they're actually doing it themselves. And then like, wait a minute, this is actually quite a bit of work put into it. And I'm hoping they respect it more too.
Excellent stuff right there. It's facts, man. And Barber, have you ever had a chance? I mean, you said you have some buddies that were doing some pretty, yes, cheese. Do we even call them B flicks, man? Those Dogman movies? Because I don't even know if it's a B flick. It's like a C flick, I feel like. But have you ever been in any movies yourself?
No, not at all. I was even reluctant. They had to shoot a commercial for the gym I worked at and wanted me in it, and I made them do it while I wasn't looking. So
So you don't apparently probably want to be in any of my upcoming music videos, and it's all good.
I'll be behind the scenes rooting for you.
That is so funny. And well, in a second, before we dive into these movies, which I think will be pretty cool, Devon, how did you get into being interested in, per se, the cryptid topic? I mean, yeah, I guess it would go hand in hand with being an artist and creating, horror movies for sure. But I guess, what is your favorite cryptids, and what brought you to be interested to sit down with us and like Drewski and everybody else?
So I've been fascinated with like horror movies, and I find like real life events or monsters and creatures, real or fake. I've been fascinated with monsters all my life, basically. My parents were huge into horror films, and that's where I think I got my love for horror ideas and horror films. They were more into like, my parents were into like slasher films. My dad was like Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, and all those guys. My mom was more into like psychology thrillers, and she read books like by Stephen King. She was like Alfred Hitchcock fan of like Psycho and the Birds. And my grandpa even was big into like Godzilla and King Kong, so I got my love for monsters from him as well. And my brother was big into Jaws and Tremors, so it's cool how my family was pretty big into horror films, and I think that's where I got my love for monsters and creatures. Watching cartoons as a kid, like Simpsons, Tales, Treehouse of Horrors, Goosebumps, reading books for that, and then like I was fascinated with even like comic books and like drawings of monsters even too.
Man, that's beautiful stuff right there. Let's go. And what about you, Mr. Barber?
I hate to say this, but when I was young, HBO was the only paid channel, and there were like 13 cable channels. And at 2 a.m., I woke up and Halloween was playing, and I got up and turned it, and my dad woke up and he came back and turned it on. He says, "Now you're going to sit there. I want to come out there and beat your hiney." And so I sat there and watched it, and it terrified me, but it terrified me in a good way, to where I started watching more and more of the stuff just with a scare factor. And then with the Bigfoot stuff, that would come out, or something resembling a Bigfoot, it was always like, okay, are they going to do it right? Is this what they really are? It was always a big disappointment, but it was still fun to watch.
Man, that's awesome right there. Great stuff by both of you. And I like creature features, but I do not like slasher and traditional type horror movies, I guess, like Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy and Chucky and all that stuff. Definitely not my swag. I like creature features, vampires, werewolves, anything that involves a creature, but it doesn't mean it has to necessarily be a good, high quality rated movie. I mean, I watched a science fiction one from the Sci-Fi Channel, yes, called Direwolf. That was actually really awesome. And, well, again, that is just something I potentially enjoy. I don't know. I mean, I still don't want to see necessarily a ton of gore and stuff. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. But, yeah, I definitely would much rather watch a werewolf attack than to watch some psychotic person, I guess, do some sort of heinous things on each other. And as far as I know, I think my mom was more into the creature features too, rest in peace, which is what got me into it. I assume she probably saw some of the other horror stuff, but same thing, Scream, never really my swag either. Devin, what do you think about that?
No, that's fair. Like I've talked to many people that are horror fans, but they don't necessarily like slashers or they don't like creature films. Some of them just stick to paranormal or ghosts or demons and that. So I find it cool that horror movies have so much genres inside of them that some people might not like all that genre, so they choose the creature features, or they choose the slashers, or they choose the more PG horror films. So it's cool how horror movies have that much, like a tree, basically. It branches in that. And I personally love all of them. I will watch a slasher, I'll watch a creature feature, I'll watch one about demons. I'll even watch ones about like B horror films about like a snowman or a leprechaun or cookie type thing. I'm down for all that kind of stuff.
You would love Tubi then, man. That's the home of all of those type movies. And what about you, Brian? Do you like more of the slashers if you had to pick one, or you want to watch more of like a creature feature like Jurassic Park or something?
Definitely more creature feature, werewolves and vampires. And, as lame as it sounds, my favorite one of all time was Fright Night because of Jerry Dandridge. I just thought he was the most epic vampire.
Yeah, that movie is so dope. And do not slap me around, but I thought the remake was pretty good too with Colin Farrell. But how do you feel?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh, he's a pretty solid actor. I mean, I'd check it out, but I like them both. I saw the remake before the original, but they're both super dope. But I don't know. I mean, some people probably don't feel that way, but
I saw at least they showed a scene with him in it, so that was kind of cool that they brought him back at least as a victim.
Yes, super cool. And Devon, have you seen that? The remake and the original?
Yeah, I have actually. I've seen the remake and the original. I watched the original before the remake, and that's another story too. A lot of people don't like remakes, but I actually don't mind remakes. I actually think some remakes are actually better than the originals. Example, I love George Romero. Dawn of the amazing film back in the day, but the remake was amazing. I really love that movie. So I respect remakes too. Some of them are just copy and paste and they don't make their own thing out of it. But yeah, no, I actually didn't mind Fright Night remake, and I liked the original as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I like them both for sure. And I believe you're referring to the one where they have that huge, basically like tool / ice cream truck with a saw, and then that old dude, bozo guy, just cuts that really not successful chick in half with a chainsaw, right?
Yeah, that's the one with like the fast zombies.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know what else has a really screwed up scene? And Brian, do you feel this too? I believe it was 28 weeks later, was it, where the guy leaves his wife and the kid in that room and just runs?
I haven't seen any of the 28 days yet. Sorry.
Devin, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I'm looking forward to 28 years later. It looks actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's gnarly. Brian, man, oh my goodness, dude. There is a scene, and correct me if I'm wrong, Devin, it's in the second one, I believe, right? Where that guy is with these other people and his wife at this like farmhouse, and then some little kid comes and the zombies follow him, and this guy's wife is trying to protect this kid. And I understand, because I don't know, man. I mean, once the rest of those, that one zombie in the room, I guess he could have handled that. But then as soon as 2 or 3 came in, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. But either way, he just bolts, dude. And he's running across this field, the farm outside, and all these zombies are chasing him, and they run like super fast. And then you just see his wife at the window screaming like help. And then the zombies just rip her apart pretty much. And he's like running for his life. It's horrible, man.
That's I think that's 20 weeks later. Yeah, the sequel there. There's a few horror movies where you're like, holy smokes, that person's a pretty bad person.
Right? And Brian, that's what we were talking about right there. If you ever want to see something where it's just straight up like, wow, can't even fathom what just happened, gotta check it out. That's a great movie too. But well, we are here, yes, to talk about some werewolf movies, and I would like to start off with both of you, and then I will come in afterwards. Mr. Barber or Devon, whoever would like to start naming off your top 10 werewolf movies, toss it over to the other host afterwards, And then I got a list as well.
Okay, pressure's on. So this is not gonna be like typically top 1 to top 10. It's just kind of like listing them off. But I would definitely say if I had to choose the top 3 werewolf movies, though, Dog Soldiers would be number 1, 100%. I love the design of the werewolves. Neil Marshall did an awesome job directing that film. Silver Bullet is the next one, I'd say, and that was like a Stephen King little short story, and it had like Gary Busey in it, which is awesome if you don't know who he is. Third one is Wolf Cop. Wolf Cop is actually a Saskatchewan wolf movie where they filmed in Moose Jaw and Regina, and it's a B movie, but it's still a lot of fun watching it. And then after that, Bad Moon, which I rewatched not long ago, and I'm like, don't remember liking it when I was younger, but as an adult, I actually liked it a lot more. It's cool with the dog fighting the wolf, and the wolf design looked cool, I thought. American Werewolf in London, I would have to throw in there too. The transformation scene is awesome. The Howling, of course. Ginger Snaps. Underworld is not like a full-on werewolf movie, but it has like vampires and werewolves. Another one that's not like a full-on werewolf movie, but I'm going to throw it on there because it's an amazing film. Monster Squad with Dracula and Wolfman and Creature from Black Lagoon, the mommy, and these kids are fighting them. It's kind of like Goonies, basically. And then the last one is Trick or Treat. There's a little story in there with werewolves. So that's my top 10, I'd say.
Man, great choices up in there. I like that. A couple I wouldn't have seen coming, a couple I did see coming, and we will touch base on those in a few. But Barber, it's your turn, man.
I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I got to say Wolfman is one of my favorite, the newer version. I mean, you got Anthony Hopkins being a werewolf. How can you go wrong? Wolf, Jack Nicholson, werewolf. How can you go wrong? Silver Bullet, same as Devon there. As far as, I thought it was pretty wild how they tied a priest into being the werewolf. Howling, I thought the special effects were pretty cool. And of course, American Werewolf is in there. The original Wolfman back in 1941, I think. Teen Wolf was just comedy gold. Wolfen actually kind of scared me a little bit, and then I had to go with a big shout out to a real, maybe even a D flick, Monster Dog with Alice Cooper.
Wow, again, right there, great answers too, because a few I didn't see coming as well. And before we fire away with some of my lists, Devon, do you have any questions about Brian's list and vice versa? Or Barbara, do you have any questions about Devon's?
No, he had a good list too, actually. I like that. I actually forgot a few of those films, and like I'm curious about the new Wolfman movie there. It came out last Friday, and I never had a chance to check it out yet. So I'm hoping it's good.
I see a bunch of mixed Of course, it's like everything else, everybody's going to have their own opinion. That's one I actually want to see because they say they put a new twist to the lore.
Yeah, no, like it's the same guy that made The Invisible Man, the new one, and that one I thought was a cool little modern take on Invisible Man. I wasn't too sure how they're going to pull that one off, but I was highly impressed by that film. So I'm hoping he does like a modern take on the Wolfman. I know some people were hating it and some people really loved it, so I'm hoping I like it.
Well, great picks right there. And I suppose both of you and the audience are probably wondering, well, what does Star Fox have on here, right? And all right, I guess it is my turn. Well, first off, before I name the movies, because I thought about putting this in there just because it's absolutely legendary. And Devon, you made a reference at it earlier, and Brian and I always talk about it. Well, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, goated, man, from Goosebumps, but it's not a movie per se. I couldn't put it up in here, but it's just something that, well, it has to be mentioned. I mean, I still catch myself sometimes watching that up in the background before bed while I'm working on some other stuff for sure. All right, and I'm going to try to put these in my top 10 order per se. I'm going to roll with number one, Dog Soldiers, of course, just because we all know how nightmare fuel it is and how awesome they look and just the whole concept. Straight up fire. All right. And then, well, my second favorite one is Underworld, Rise of the Lycans. That movie, in my opinion, has some of the best looking werewolves. And when they're all running down the hills through the forest and he goes up in the cave, dang, that just straight up, well, gave me some chills. And then I'm going to go with the Howling Five, the rebirth that takes place in a castle over in Europe. Straight up awesome twist on things. And then I'm going to go with the Howling 2. Your sister is a werewolf. Yes, absolutely amazing soundtrack, beautiful setup in general. And I mean, you can't really go wrong with it. And then, well, yes, of course. I personally liked American Werewolf in Paris better than London. Not saying it's a better movie by any means, but I like the soundtrack better. I used to like Bush and stuff, and I don't know. I just like the setup better. So I'm going to throw that one right up in there too. And then I'm going to put, yeah, Van Helsing, because that werewolf looks so awesome. And then you got Hugh Jackman, Kate Beckinsale. Again, can't really go wrong with that one. And then I'm going to say The Howling, the original one. And then American Werewolf in London. And then my final one would be Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins as the Wolfman in the movie The Wolfman. And whichever one would like to ask questions or give your opinion first, throw it to the other host right after, and let's roll, man.
I've never seen Dog Soldiers, but both of you seem to have it number one. What's the big turn on?
For me, I'd say like the design and the plot of it. I don't want to give away too much, but like something about it is like gritty and like raw, and it looks very. It's like dark, but the werewolf designs look awesome. Neil Marshall, he did it. He did the movie called The Descent, and it's these girls that go into the cave and they find these monsters. So he had two back-to-back great horror films, I found.
Excellent stuff right there. And yes, Devon just hit it pretty well on the head. And my aspects is just how real they look. They're tall and lanky with those elongated arms that we get the descriptions on. It's got that large mane. The way they film a couple scenes where you just see the shadows of the werewolves bolting in between the trees, completely epic. You got soldiers, special forces, so you got artillery. Yeah, it's got a pretty cool plot. The only issue I have with it is one thing and one thing only, and I'm not going to spoil anything, is there is just a part where somebody decides to try to fight a wolf with a frying pan, and I get how some people thought it was funny. I personally didn't. I thought it was just way out of place, but besides that, yeah, you just really should check that out.
Fight a wolfman with a frying pan on. That's like taking a Bigfoot or a Bigfoot with a Q-tip.
It's brutal, right, Devin?
That's awesome. Yeah, that felt a little bit off. They're going for that little comedy, dark comedy little aspect to it. The Howling, it's funny because I actually rewatched that film in theaters in Saskatoon, and they actually brought down Joe Dante, the director, and he showed
Sick.
Gremlins, The Howling, and The Burbs. So it's cool actually watching these films with Joe Dante in the theater. And The Howling, he actually was sitting right next to me. So it was hard to watch the film because I was trying to watch his reaction to his own film more.
Yes, that's great stuff. And Brian, if you haven't seen that as well, one of the most terrifying scenes is when you have the two people in the car and just the way the werewolf hands are all over it. And it's like they're trying to figure out the lock like we were talking about the other day. And yeah, it's super messed up and pretty well done for sure. Well, do both of you have any questions you would like to potentially ask me about my list or why I put those in those spots before we move on?
It's not on your list, but like Monster Squad, have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen Monster Squad, and I think it's cool too. I was trying to go more, I guess, for my picks with the horror aspects, and more traditional kind of werewolf movies. And I know Bad Moon wasn't on there. I think The Wolf looks all right. Way too mechanical though. And again, we're talking about a werewolf that gets beat up by a German Shepherd. I just got beef with stuff in that movie.
No, that's fair. I usually have I love the whole dogs fighting the monsters, kind of like Hills Have Eyes when the German Shepherd got revenge on the mutants there. I was cheering on the German Shepherd a lot.
No, that's definitely dope for sure. And I mean, it's cool to have that battle, but just the fact that it ended up being the end of this werewolf, I don't know, man. It just brushes me like so. There's no way a German Shepherd could take on a werewolf. I mean, what the Christmas trees? What am I missing here, right?
No, that's fair.
Brian, what did you want to fire away on, my guy?
When I was flipping through the list, I heard Wolf Cop. What was I saw a picture of it. It looked like it was a werewolf in a police uniform.
Yeah, it's from Saskatchewan. They filmed it in Moose and Regina. It's a more independent movie. I think they was $1 million budget, I'd say. And yeah, the wolf, he's a actual cop. He's a drunk, and then he gets attacked by a werewolf, and then becomes wolf cop, and then he takes on the villains or the crime around town, and it's quite out there.
Oh, there's a video game that sounds just like that, Wolf Among Us. I don't know if you played that. It's literally a town full of different monsters and mutants and things like that, and the main drunk cop is a werewolf.
That is so funny. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are other movies on there that I love, but again, I was trying to go for more horror. I mean, Teen Wolf would obviously be up on there, and yeah, Ginger Snaps is dope. Also, there's plenty of shows that had some pretty cool werewolf stuff, and I can't fully even remember the name of this one, but there's one where the werewolf looks pretty awesome, but it flips people off, which is pretty funny before it jumps out the window. I can't remember what that's called, but that's a decent one. And then also Snow Hollow, where it technically wasn't a werewolf, was actually a person that was a serial unaliver dressing up as the werewolf, but still he's ripping people apart. Makes you kind of wonder. There's plenty of decent ones. I would like to see some more that are quality before we dive into some gnarly stuff and let these two busy individuals get rolling. Because personally, again, the three werewolf movies I was looking forward to was Frank Grillo's Werewolves. I mean, I wouldn't encourage anybody to spend money on that. Wait until it's on a platform where you are able to just watch it that you're already paying for. Also, yeah, Operation Blood Hunt with Quentin Rampage Jackson. I mean, he's not a A-lister at all. No pun intended. I mean, he was in a movie called The A-Team. He's decent, pretty funny, but he's pretty much the one to highlight the cast. And I don't know what I was expecting. The werewolves look awesome, but the story and everything is all over the place, and it's a hot piece of garbage too. And personally, I did not like the new Wolfman. I don't know. Again, I understand what was being geared towards it, but sometimes I just wish, I guess, with movies that they are kind of remaking but not fully remaking, just change the title up a bit. I don't know. As a former actor, I got a huge issue with all these movies that milk everything dry off of titles, like Gladiator 2. That is just hot garbage, and it wasn't even anything to do with Gladiator. And you just keep on squeezing everything you can out of those titles, you know?
Yeah, I have a quick question for both of you. Seems like it didn't end up on any of our lists, but it just dawned on me. What's your take on the take of the werewolves in Twilight?
I never watched it, so I can't say anything.
Well, I guess I have to answer here personally, because everyone always says I look like a vampire. I got stereotyped for acting and modeling like that. A lot of girls I dated told me I looked like a Twilight or True Blood character. Okay. And Yeah, for what it is, if people actually get past some things and just understand it's not supposed to be like a gore fest like 30 Days a Night or something. It's supposed to be more Interview with a Vampire like Anne Rice, which I personally don't like that, but I think Robert Pattinson's cool, and I've met Kristen Stewart before and Vampires and Werewolves, so of course I was going to check it out, and girls I was dating was telling me I look like characters and they were into it. So yeah, I've seen them all. Some of the demeanors of the vampires are pretty cool, like Pattinson's attitude, Edward, and just how he holds himself. Some of the fights are awesome, but again, the werewolves in that shouldn't have really been called the werewolves. They more or less, in my eyes, were like skinwalkers, which isn't even the correct term. Like Ryan Tremblay has broken down for me. That's still a modern term that we put, but in indigenous lore, he or she that walks on all fours used to become a bigger version. And yeah, those technically really should have just been the skinwalkers and not actually werewolves. But it's cool, but it's not really meant for a horror movie. It's kind of a love story. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I was married to a woman, and so my father-in-law would have been Taylor Lautner's grandson, and I actually took him to the gym once. But this was when what was it, Lava Boy, and what was that first movie?
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah, there we go. That was when that first had come out. So here I am taking this 10 or 12-year-old to a gym, and I thought, what the frick is this kid? Yeah, I'll take him, but well, little did I know what he was gonna become.
That's pretty cool, man. And again, like I said, I personally don't think it's a bad movie. Again, don't take just my word on anything because I like creature features, so that tells you enough right there. But I do think if you find those type of movies entertaining and such, or just decent acting or love stories, whatever. Again, I probably would have still checked it out on my own, but it definitely was not hard when, like I said, you're dating girls that have posters of them all over their walls. So it kind of just happens, you know?
Yeah, I was just interested in your take on the werewolves. That's what they call them, but to me, they never really fit the bill. They were just wolves running around with intelligence.
Yep, and that was pretty much my beef with Hemlock Grove. Again, that show had one of the best opening werewolf scenes that I have ever had time to witness in my life. Quickly before we dive into these and have to tie this up, but you had a girl that was texting her friend. She's waiting at a light where a train's going by, and this werewolf hits the side of her car and literally spins it around. Okay, it looks crazy as heck. She gets out and starts running, obviously, which I don't know. I mean, if something just destroyed your car like that, sure. I mean, I don't know if you want to sit inside there, whatever. Both bad choices. She's running. You then see the perspective of the werewolf like chasing her, and she's running again. Now you see her perspective through the forest. Comes to an area where there's a doghouse pretty far away from the actual house, though, and she just runs into this doghouse, and it's terrifying because you never see the werewolf, but it starts like knocking and messing with her on the side of the doghouse because it knows she's in there, and then literally like, rips her out, starts eating her stomach as she's trying to like text on her phone and her friends calling her and stuff. Pretty messed up. But again, that show loses me when they have the whole aspect of same thing. The werewolves aren't really werewolves. They look like what we just talked about. He or she that walks on all fours. The skinwalkers. Same thing with True Blood. Had some really cool stuff, but again, those aren't werewolves. They were just larger wolves that still had the human intellect. And I just really dislike that because if it actually would have had more of the werewolf aspects, like the underworld of stuff, those movies could have been like really high up, you know?
So the werewolf movie that you were thinking about before, the one with flipping off was Cursed, by the way, is Wes Craven's Cursed.
Wes Craven's had some decent stuff. He's had some really crappy stuff too. But yeah, that movie's pretty funny. I mean, again, you have to go into it realizing that it's not a full-based horror movie. It's got some pretty messed up stuff in it. But again, the werewolf's flipping you off. It's pretty funny, you know. You ready for this, Devon and Mr. Barber? We are going to head out to Canada. All right, 1780. Good old Ontario. John Pencil is on the run after unaliving his brother Henry in Tyrone County, New York, finding himself in the wilderness of Canada. While on the run, Pencil has been seen getting attacked by large, jet black wolves 2 separate times. But luckily for him, local indigenous peoples of the area had heard his screams and decided to save him. Shortly after finding out he had unalived his brother, he was expelled from the natives' villages for being a bad omen and was sent on his way into the surrounding wilderness. Almost immediately upon leaving the village, the same jet black large wolves were seen viciously attacking Pencil, except this time the natives only stood by and watched as he was ripped to pieces. What do you think, Devon? And then Brian, I'd like to hear your thoughts after.
That's some creepy stuff, man. That's I'd actually like to dive into more of that story, actually.
Very creepy. I mean, carriers of justice, maybe. I don't know how you would look at that one.
Yeah, straight up gnarly. And no worries, Devon. Next time you get some time, man, come up here with Brian and myself. And I literally have a book of 550 pages, and I have a whole entire chapter from Canada. We could probably get it into maybe 2 episodes of all the stuff we have going on. Like I said, just let us know when you got some free time. I mean, we always record around this time, and yeah, we'll spend a whole entire episode up on Canada.
No, it sounds fun.
Heck yeah. All right, well, we got one more for you here that's pretty gnarly, and we are going to head to a more recent one. Wait, what? There's recent ones? Yes, there is. March 26th, 2024, Bradshaw Road, Bancroft, Ontario, Canada. An 11-year-old child is outside playing near the forest when suddenly an enormous, dark black, German Shepherd looking like husky creature bursts out of the forest and begins savagely attacking the child. Only when the parents and others heard the child's desperate pleas for help was the creature scared away back into the forest, allowing paramedics to airlift the child to the nearest trauma unit for life-saving procedures. It was said this strange canine-like creature had a very odd running gait to it. And yes, that's the final one for tonight. But Devon, what do you think about that? And then Brian, I would love to hear what you think, man.
Did they say what the kid said, like what he saw and his reactions, or?
They did not, and it's up in your area. Unfortunately, I am only able to go off of the news articles, which all tell almost identically the same story. So I do not know if the parents or family do not want to speak about it more, or people don't want them to.
No, that's fair. I would be curious what the kid would say about the attack.
Yeah, it would be nice to hear what the kid had to say. And then when they said it ran off on an awkward gait, a running gait, I mean, what's that mean? Did it have a limp, or was it on 2 legs, or what was the deal there?
Very bizarre and great questions as well. And yes, those are all questions I would have as well. And I mean, we're able to verify this did occur, that there was injuries, etc. Yet we can't really get any more information than that at the moment. And it's pretty much probably what's going to only be presented unless somebody up in Canada is able to actually interact with these people more or less, because yeah, I mean, if a news outlet is willing to put that much information out there, that's probably the max as to what they're going to allow the public to indulge on. I mean, quick example, it's no different than History Channel or something that is showing you new modern military weapons. Those aren't new. I mean, those are new enough for them to show us, but they're way ahead of what they're showing us, you know? It's one of those things, I guess, you got to take what's presented, but also realize there's probably more to the story, you know?
No, makes sense there.
Something that we might never find out.
Yep, unfortunately. Well, do both of you great minds have anything else you would like to touch base on tonight before we let you get back to what you need to be doing?
I just want to appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for inviting me out here. I enjoyed talking to you guys. It was actually really fun to come up with a top 10 werewolf list. I like that podcasts bring a lot of different aspects to each one. Last night I did one, and it was like a trivia question for horror movies. I did decent. I was put on the spot, so I kind of screwed up some answers, but yeah, it's nice. Cool that we did the top 10 werewolves thing. That was something new that I've never done before.
I thought it was great having Devon on. I mean, first actual filmmaker I've been able to talk to and to hear his insight and your insight on modeling and acting and actually how long it takes to put a scene together and everything was very interesting because it was something I just took for granted that, you know, you make a movie in a couple months and you're done, but obviously not when it takes 3 scenes in 2 days.
Yeah, that is for sure. And thanks to both of you for hanging out with us tonight. And like I said, Devon, just let us know when you get some more time. I film Saturday through Sunday, 8:30 Eastern time, and Brian comes on every Saturday and Sunday with me. All you really need to do is throw me some times and nights that you are available, and we can do some deep diving into some really bizarre Canadian disappearances and sightings and such. But yes, to the audience, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society for the early hours of the morning. But no worries, we will have links to all of Devon's upcoming endeavors and what he does now up in the description of the video. And the same for Mr. Barber. But if you do watch Midnight Lycanthropy, you know Brian's always here. We still need to say that though. Make sure to go over and like everyone's content as well. And if you want to see more of what's going to be happening, definitely tune in. But there's also a ton of other great, beautiful minds I have listed underneath down below the Midnight Society group. Check out everyone down there. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Devon, and the same to you, Brian.
I appreciate being here and I really appreciate Devon coming on.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you guys stay spooky and you have a safe night.
Oh, you legends, you. Thank you to every single one of you that did tune in tonight. And if you made it this far, you really are legends. I do adore every single one of you. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and feed the algorithm. I will catch you very soon.